Hello students, welcome to week 7 for COM 425. This week we are exploring ideas related to organizational diversity within our course of organizational communication. When you look at the week 7 agenda, you see we are reading chapter 12. We're watching 3 videos related to servant leadership, how leaders serve each other, as well as diversity in the workplace. We have discussion board number 7 due on Friday with reply posts due on Sunday, as well as our critical assignment due this week. So you see the reading is light, the videos are a little lighter, and the discussion board doesn't have as much to it because we should be focusing all of our efforts onto our critical assignment. Keep in mind the critical assignment is not something that you can complete in one day. It's something you should be working on actively. In fact, we've been working on it since week 5, so you should be working on it throughout the week to ensure you have ample time to finish the assignment. And we'll have explicit instructions in this lecture about the critical assignment. First, let's spend some time looking at discussion board number 7. Remember, all discussion boards require you to post your initial post of at least 200 to 300 words no later than Friday, with reply posts of at least 100 words no later than Sunday. In this discussion, you need to explain how relational barriers lead to different experiences for women and minorities in the workplace. Specifically, look at what relational barriers are in the course of the content of the course text, as well as maybe doing some external research on your own to determine what you think that term is. Then you need to consider how can an organization avoid the negative effects of diversity management programs. There's recently been some research showing that diversity management programs are not as well received as they were 20, 30 years ago. In fact, some people find them offensive in nature and detrimental to the workplace environment by highlighting that we need to manage diversity in terms of a formal program within a workplace and as a communication method within an organization. So I want you to spend some time talking about how you can have these programs in place and what negative effects you can avoid to minimize the negativity that often comes with that. Once you've completed discussion board number 7 and you've submitted on Friday, it's good to take some time to work on your critical assignment. So really, we've been working on this assignment since week 5. In week 5, you submitted your topic selection rationale, where you told me what topic and what approach you were using, as well as providing some sources for that topic and approach. Last week in week 6, you conducted a scholarship search, so you took those sources you noted in week 5, hopefully, and turned them into your annotated bibliography for your social scholarship search paper. What that paper is designed for and what I'm doing at this point now is I'm going through all of your scholarship searches and determining and looking at the sources you have to give you feedback to let you know some of those sources are excellent or maybe not so excellent. Once you've completed those 2 things, which you should have if you're on time within the course, is to now write your paper. So what you're going to do in your paper is you're going to conduct an analysis of the chosen organizational communication process and approach you've selected. This paper is 8 to 12 pages long. That's excluding your abstract, your reference page, and your cover page. So it's 8 to 12 pages of written content from you. It is submitted through TaskStream. If you're not sure how to use TaskStream, please check out Blackboard in the week 7 module or check out the week 0 module. There's specific instructions on how to upload your paper to TaskStream. It's important to know that sometimes TaskStream takes a significant amount of time to upload depending on how many users are accessing the site at a given point in time or period. So definitely don't wait till the last minute to do that. You also will submit your paper to SafeAssign. There'll be 2 links to submit your paper in the week 7 module, one to TaskStream and one to Blackboard as a SafeAssign assignment. That checks it for plagiarism and all that great stuff for me. So you'll submit it in 2 points, 2 spots there. However, let's spend some time looking at what the paper needs to contain. So there's 4 major sections to your paper that I'm looking for. Remember, you have to have at least 10 outside references other than the textbook. That's why we did the scholarship search and you listed sources in your week 5 rationale. But there's 4 major sections to the paper. I'm really looking for a strong introduction that discusses the organizational communication process as well as the approach that you're using to analyze that process in the paper. So give me a strong excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied today. Please give me a strong introduction to your paper that clearly sets up the paper with a strong purpose statement or thesis that tells me, okay, you are looking at this ORG-COM process and you're looking at this approach to analyze this process. And I've gotten that from your introduction. You'll then need to have a section that's describing major assumptions and research tenets, so major arguments and points related to the approach you've selected. So I want to see what you've found out there about either systems, cultural, or critical approach that you're using in your analysis, and telling me that you know this. So you've learned that the cultural approach looks like this, and these are the major arguments or points in favor of the cultural approach for organizational communication, and these are the major arguments against this approach. I want to see you've spent some time in that. So it should have a clear introduction. I want you to describe the approach, telling me the positive and negatives about it, and then I want you to present a review of the literature. And so what that means is I want you to take a lot of that information you did in your scholarship search and put it into a narrative, a paper written paragraph structure that tells me what the literature is about. I want you to make sure that in some of the sources you're telling me about, you're not listing this in an APA and an APA annotated bibliography format, but rather you're now putting it into a paragraph paper structure and a narrative perspective, and you're telling me, okay, these are some of the sources that I've found that relate to this and this and this. When we look at this organizational communication process, it's important to keep in mind this. When we look at this approach, we need to keep in mind these things. And then after you've shown me some of the sources you found, then you get into your argument. That's where you're doing your analysis, and you're analyzing the process that you've chosen with the approach that you've selected. So what I'm saying is, if you've selected something about burnout, that's an organizational communication process or concept that was on the list, then you're going to analyze it utilizing the systems, cultural, or critical approach, whichever one you've selected, after you've given me a snapshot of some of what the information is out there. So the review of the literature is only telling me, hey, look, this is the information out there about these two topics at this point in time. Now I'm going to conduct my analysis and tell you why I think burnout is the way it is according to this particular approach in organizational communication. I'm looking for the argument to be effective, convincing, and clear. So those three things mean this. An effective argument clearly shows me that there's analysis and thought in what you're saying. I can clearly say, okay, this person is saying A, B, C, and D about this topic, and I understand that. And anybody reading this, not just me, the professor that's taught the course, but anybody reading it can clearly say, I now know that the cultural approach means this to this particular topic. That's an effective argument. A convincing argument means you're showing me the sources and the information that you've found that supports why you think the approach fits with the topic in that way. So you're using sources to support it. That's a convincing argument. The effective argument is being clear in what you're saying. You've concisely and clearly told me in an eloquent and well-written way what the argument is, and you've effectively done that so anybody reading the paper can do that. And a convincing argument is using your sources to support why you think what your point is in the argument is that point and why it's the best point. So once you've done all that, then you can conclude the paper and make sure it's 8 to 12 pages. You have your APA sources in there nicely. You're using in-text citations. That's very important. And your safe assigned score is, originality report is under 30%. Once you've done all that, then you're good to go. You can submit it to TaskStream, and everything will be, you'll be well on your way to writing into week 8, minimally stress-free. I want to point some things out about Chapter 12 and some key takeaways. It's important to know that organizational diversity brings together individuals of varied experiences, educational qualification, age groups, backgrounds, in a common place within one organization. The first and foremost benefit of this type of diversity is for individuals to get to learn lots of things from each other. That should be your point and your main purpose as a manager or somebody working in communication related to the organization. When we look at the chapter, we need to look at several aspects of experiences of women and minorities in organizations today. It's important to see that women and people of color often deal with stereotyping and discriminations, as well as systematic and relational barriers in the workplace. It's important to know that a multicultural organization has many opportunities and challenges posed by diversity itself, as well as looking at how organizations can take more steps into moving into a multicultural environment. Diversity really should be should be encouraged to increase creativity and new ideas and would increase the competitive advantage of an organization. Emphasis should be made on maximizing the contributions of all employees, regardless of what their backgrounds are and what they bring to the table from a cultural perspective. Diverse organizations really are seen as important sites where organizational culture intersects with national and ethnic cultures, and the values of various co-cultural groups are valid and heard. It's important that diversity does not necessarily discourage discourse in a workplace environment, but rather encourage communication. Emphasis should be placed on meeting the needs of women and minorities and other co-cultural groups. Diversity is also seen as one avenue of the organization to adapt to effectively to a turbulent global environment. Integration of women and minorities into formal and informal networks are emphasized in helping build a positive and collaborative working environment. Diverse organizations should really be seen as an arena in which subjugated groups are dealing with different classes and cultural expectations, and emphasis should be placed on the perpetuation from hegemonic relationships. Scholarly attention in this area is looking really at women and minorities in this sense and how they're finding value and their own voice within these organizations. So when we're looking at it from a diversity perspective that we see in our lives every day. We're seeing now that as communication scholars and communication practitioners, that when we're working with organizational diversity programs or communication related to organizational diversity, we're looking at providing a voice to everybody in the organization. That really the marketplace of ideas in an organization should not be limited by someone's background or anything related to that, but rather everybody has a voice to contribute to the company, and that we all have something that we learn from one another, and we should take that in mind when we are looking at and hearing ideas for new products, new processes, new procedures, whatever that may be. So to recap, we're reading chapter 12. We're watching 3 videos related to the course concepts. We have discussion board number 7 due on Friday with replies due on Sunday, and your critical assignment due on Sunday as well. Remember, you need to start early on your critical assignment. It's not something that you could at all complete between Friday and Sunday. You should be working on that early in the week. If you have any questions, let me know. Reach out. I'm more than willing to work with you and meet with you if needed. I pray you all have a blessed week, and I look forward to interacting with you. God bless.